Today we're doing acrylic nails on short bitten nails. So grab a brew, take a seat, and let's get started. So as with any service, your prep is king. It is key. It is the absolute winner. I was about to launch this out the window. I've started just taking it out and dusting the nail. It works just as well, to be honest with you. But I normally now unscrew it and tap the talc over the nails. It just means that I don't have to carry a full bottle of talc, and it gets a really nice distribution. The talc is super important as well. My client has quite, for want of a better word, sticky cuticles. So it really helps dry them out. It means I can lift them off the nail plate as I'm doing now and really work on them. When you're doing a set on very, very short nails, because you'll notice, because she's a biter, they're right down the side walls. There's very little real estate. Clearing the cuticle and kind of moving that off the nail plate as much as possible is going to create us more space to adhere the acrylic to. It's going to be so much better. You're going to be so much less likely to get any lifting. Next, using a flame bit in forward down the left hand side of the nail and then reverse down the right hand side of the nail on an RPM of around about 16, which I know sounds quite high, but hear me out. You want to clear that nail plate. Now, I used to use around about a 10 to 12, but I found using a slightly lower grit, like a finer grit E-file, a very gentle touch and the right angle, having it on faster is so much easier, and it does just literally skim over the top of the nail plate. Once we've done all of that, we're going to go in with the rest of our prep, so I'll come back in a moment to talk you through what I'm doing there. And in the meantime, if you do enjoy these videos, please could I ask you to like and subscribe. I am trying to make sure I upload one long form video a week, so if there's any particular subjects that you want me to cover, I can absolutely do that. That's not a problem. More than happy to help. So just pop it in the comments, let me know what you want to see and how you want to see the footage, etc. That'd be amazing. Next we go in with our old faithful, well, not even that old actually, the Katie Barnes cuticle scissors. Oh, I just adore these. I've got 3 pairs now, only because I wanted extra ones to sanitize, so I'm not I can sanitize them easier, and I'm not thinking, oh gosh, I need to sanitize that before my next client. I've already got one sanitized ready, and also I wanted one for my own personal use that I keep in my office and goes nowhere, and frankly I absolutely love, which is just mental now I'm saying it out loud. Yeah, so it makes life so much easier because it's ergonomically kind of shaped to the actual nail and the cuticle. Oh, honestly, it's wonderful. I've also started hooking the brush that I was using there around my pinky finger, and it just means that I don't actually need to keep picking it up. I can just, when I need to brush off or move anything back off the nail plate, I can do that using that. So it's taken a little bit of getting used to, but I'm doing it for all my services now, and I absolutely love doing it. It makes life so much easier. Now for this particular part, I'll either use a diamond polishing bit or I'll use just the flame bit again, to be honest with you. Again, she's quite a bad biter, and she kind of picks at the skin, so I don't want to do anything too aggressive, but obviously I do want to make sure that's all really nice and polished. So I'm just going for one last kind of dust round. I'm hardly touching the nail plate because I've already done it, but I'm more kind of going around making sure that cuticle's well pushed back and it's fully exfoliated. There's nothing kind of popping up out of nowhere there and getting into my service. Next, I'll use a sanding band just to very gently etch that nail plate. I've literally got it on a speed of 1. Again, this e-file is super powerful, and it doesn't need a lot, you know, so I'll literally have it on and 1 RPM, so it's very, very slow. It's not going to cause any damage, and I'm just very gently tickling over the nail plate there, just from side to side, and then I'll do a couple of up and downs just to make sure that I'm kind of almost cross-hatching the etching. But again, I'm not pressing. I'm literally just going across the surface. We want etches in it. We don't want to file away the surface of the nail. And actually on that, I know there's a lot of discourse often around e-file bits and whether it should be a sanding band, whether you should use a hand file, what grit you use. So I personally use a 240 grit sanding band, and I will just very, very lightly go over the nail, as I've said before, on a very low speed. In my humble opinion, I think you can do as much damage with a hand file, sometimes if not more, because I find that I'm much more consciously careful when I'm using an e-file, whereas when you're using the hand file, it's very easy to get carried away. I remember when I was doing my training, one of my colleagues, bless her, she was filing my nail plate and she literally went through the surface of my nail with a hand file because she was being too heavy-handed. Obviously, it happens, do you know what I mean? It's one of those things, but I've never really forgotten that, so I've always tried to err on the side of caution when I am prepping my clients' nails. So anything that you can see me doing here, I am trying to be really mindful. I'm always asking my client, does that hurt? How does that feel? Is it hot? Etc, etc, you know, because I want to make sure, especially when I'm doing a removal, that there's no heat building up, etc. But you'll see there's a lovely healthy nail plate. Now, stupidly forgot to apply take a video of me applying the tips. I do have some almond shaped tips, but I decided to go in with these ones just because I find these ones stick better on shorter nails. The almond ones I've got are quite stiff, and if somebody's a biter, so they've got that little bulbous bit of skin at the end of the nail that all biters, including myself, have, it just means that I can literally kind of, it goes into the sidewalls better and creates the grooves for the nail to then grow out of, if that makes sense. But yes, I'm using the Pro Impressions tips, I think, there, and they've just, you know, they go on beautiful. But I'm just basically, I'll either trim or e-file off the corners when I'm doing an almond. It kind of started off as an oval, and then I went more almond because I realised I had a little bit more room for manoeuvre. Had she had nails to the end of her fingers, as it were, I would have gone more oval. But because she's got very bitten nails, I've been able to do a bit more of an almond, but I probably wouldn't recommend it normally on such short natural nails. And here's where, in a moment of brilliance, I remembered that I had my curved nail clippers. So annoyed with myself when I remembered that I had them in my kit. And I just literally trimmed the corners off. And that cuts off minutes. You'll see in a minute how much quicker it is. But yeah, highly recommend that. Once you've faffed about with the shape and you're happy with where it is, then you go in. I use this bottle of dehydrator from Bexy Glow, and I just find it really handy for kind of dehydrating, but it doesn't melt the tips because I use alcohol and acetone. Sometimes it can affect the tips or the adhesion of the glue, whereas I find that particular dehydrator doesn't, and it really helps my adhesion. Then I go in with 2 layers of the Young Nails Protein Bond, and literally she couldn't get these off. She tried, I think, and she managed to pull some of the foil off because, like myself, she's has a real problem with picking at her nails, which again, the amount of times I see people who say, oh, went to a nail salon and I was turned away because my nails are too short. And the problem is, if you are a biter, you will struggle to grow them up. So I completely understand. I empathise massively. It must be it is hard. I know it's hard. But actually, I was saying I made these more pointed. I actually did keep them a little bit more oval, I think, rather than almond, because obviously we wanted to make sure that they grew up really well. And she just finds them easier to wear, oval or almond. But I think I decided that they were actually a bit too short to be fully almond, if that makes sense. If you explain things like this to your client, it will... if you explain things to your client, they will understand. And if they don't, then, you know what I mean, and they're like, oh no, I want this shape and it's just not practical for you to achieve, or a design is not practical for you to achieve, then perhaps they're not the client for you. And I know that's really hard, and I'm incredibly lucky with my clients. But I just think at the end of the day, you need to protect your piece and you need to be doing nails that you're happy with and that you can achieve. I went in with 1 bead, I think, or 2 beads on most of these nails. It was very, very easy. It was like obviously tiny little nail beds. She's got we always laugh because we're very similar in a lot of ways, and she's got she's got nail beds just like me. Honestly, similar kind of shape, exactly. And I'm a terrible biter and picker, so we always laugh about that because we've really got that in common. And I'm really empathetic if she comes back and she's like, I have actually managed to get them off after about 3 weeks. So yeah. Once I've done all of this, I will come back in a moment. I don't know whether I'll have the filing in with this one, but we'll see. It's as much of a surprise as it is for me as it is to you, because I did this a few weeks ago. And honestly, my perimenopausal self cannot remember a thing. So I will leave you to watch this. Again, if you've got any comments, questions, anything that you're interested in, let me know in the comments. Also, if you've ever had an issue where you've been, refused service, or you've had to refuse a service to a client, let me know, because I'm really interested to hear your stories, and then I can always as well see what I can do to help. I don't know whether you can see there, but I brought that bead out just a tiny bit over the edge, and it lasted, but I found that I was able to do that on most of them. I just kind of brought it to a point with my brush. But yeah, the acrylic applied beautifully this day, and it dried down really quickly. I don't think I've ever done a fresh set so fast. Then we go in with our filing routine. I always try and recommend keeping your filing routine the same. I personally have ADHD, so I do sometimes skip about, but the ideal routine would be to do your free edge first, then go from the cuticle down the right hand side of the nail, then the cuticle down the left hand side of the nail, and then bevel over the top. So you'll see there I go down the right hand side of the nail, just get that cuticle tucked in, and then I go down the left hand side of the nail, and then you'll see I bevel over the top. And in theory, if your application's good, you shouldn't need too much more filing than that. So next we go in with one of my clients' favourite designs, and that's just some really pretty foil. So basically you're going to go in with a layer of your foil gel. I try and work really thin with this. Again, I'm always very aware that we don't want to be adding any bulk, and it really will if you're not careful with foil gel. So just a very, very thin coating. Again, and if I was wanting a more full coverage, I'd probably be super careful, but I really wasn't that bothered. This is more like a patchy effect. You'll see in a moment how it works, but you want to cure it, I think it's 30 seconds, but just check the instructions on the particular foil gel you have. Then I'll get my foil, I'll scrumple it in my hand first, and I'll literally just press it onto the nail. Don't be too precise about it. You know, you can kind of put as much or as little as you want. See, again, I scrunch that there just because, again, it gives me that kind of, it breaks the foil up when I apply it. But this is the most gorgeous kind of, I think it's like a pinky silvery colour. I've had it for ages. Unfortunately, the company that I got it from doesn't exist anymore, I'm afraid. But yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful foil. So once I've done that, going with my top coat, as always, I'm using the 20 Pro rubber top coat, which is just gorgeous. It's the perfect consistency, and it shines absolutely beautifully, and it's still shining when I see it 2, 3, 4 weeks later. So yeah, final set coming up soon. If you have enjoyed this, as I say, please do drop me a like and give me a follow, and make sure you share this to anybody you thinks might benefit from it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye now.